Last time, we continued with section 2, entitled Solar Fire, the Fire of Mind, where we took a deep dive into the Gnostic world of syzygies through chart 4. This chart, whose extensive caption was written by HPB. This chart represents all phases of manifestation, beginning with Bethus, the monad, and initiating impulse, and continuing all the way down to the hex alpha, the six-pointed star that represents the return path. If you're interested in the analysis of this chart 4, take a look at the recording of the last session, session 67, made 2 weeks ago, which you can find on YouTube or makara.us. We then moved into the first of the 9 introductory questions that preface section 2 of TCF, which asks, what is the relationship of the SON sun to the SUN sun? DK then gets into a commentary on the difference between the pairs of opposites called spirit and matter, whose manifested counterpart is life and form. On this subject, DK says, before manifestation, there is spirit substance, but in a state of quiescence, of utter neutrality, of negativity and passivity. In manifestation, the two are approximated. They interact upon each other. Activity supersedes quiescence. Positivity replaces negativity. Movement is seen in place of passivity, and the two primordial factors are no longer neutral to each other, but attract and repulse, interact and utilize. Then, and only then, can we have form animated by life and consciousness demonstrated through appropriate vehicles. So what begins as spirit substance before manifestation becomes life and form through manifestation. DK then expands on the subject of heat, which he defines as occult feeling. And this is one of those to remember because DK will often just say heat. And of course, we're all tend to just think in terms of radiated heat, right? But what he means is this ability to have an experience of the life aspect. And by light, he means the illuminating power of consciousness. So he'll often say heat and light. And what he's really talking about is the ability to experience the life and the illuminating power of consciousness. These qualities are brought about, we are told, by the, quote, union of the two poles, or by the occult marriage of male and female, of spirit, father, and matter, mother, resulting in creation of the objective outer solar system. DK then identifies the life aspect with electric fire and the form aspect with fire by friction, whose interrelation creates solar fire, which is characterized by the light of consciousness. DK says this solar fire will be distinguished above all else by its evolutionary development and by the gradual intensification of the heat, note that word, to be felt, and of the light to be seen. We then learned that each microcosmic or human son, S-O-N, birthed by means of a father-mother union, mirrors the cosmic process by which spirit and matter unite to produce a universal son. DK emphasizes the consistent outcome of the spirit-matter interaction across all planes of existence, resulting in the emergence of the Son, a conscious individual unit of divinity. In the human context, this results in an exact microcosmic replica of the all self, pointing to a fractal-like reality in which every human soul contains the full archetypal pattern of the whole, each one a complete spiritual blueprint, holographically encoded within the part. Okay, in other words, as above, so below. And he very strongly drives this point home through this section. And this pretty much takes us up to where we left off last time. So next up, could we get a reader for this first part of today's session?
And Veronica.
And Veronica, are you there?
Okay, looks like not. So Ariani.
Yes.
I'm here. I'll go next.
Oh, you can go first if you wish, Veronica.
Oh,
If you
that's
prefer.
okay. Why don't you go ahead, Ariane,
No.
and Veronica, you could do the next reading.
Okay. When this is the case, and each son of God is a perfected son, characterized by perfectly expressed light and heat, then the entire solar system, the greater Son of God, will be the perfected Son. The system will then be characterized by a blaze of refulgent glory, and by a radiation that will link it up with its cosmic center, and thus effect the liberation of the sun and his return to the far distant source from whence the primal impulse originated. Therefore, bear in mind, first, that the sun is the radiant result of the union of spirit and matter, and may be considered as the totality of the solar system, the sun and the 7 sacred planets. Second, that the sun manifests through his qualities of light and heat, as does the solar sun.
Thank you, Ariane. Okay, first, when this is the case and each son of God is a perfected son, characterized by perfectly expressed light and heat, there are those two words again, light meaning radiant consciousness and heat meaning the ability to respond to the life aspect, then the entire solar system, the greater Son of God, will be the perfected Son, S-U-N. So again, we have the fractal principle. The perfected Son, quote unquote, at micro and macro levels reflects the same underlying pattern of the union of spirit and matter, characterized at this high level by full identification with the life principle. The concept of identicality comes in here. It's a favorite word of Michael Robbins. The perfected son of each son, perfected S-U-N son of each S-O-N son of God, is the perfected greater Son of God. Let me say that again, that once the entire system is perfected, then each fractal part of it, which is, for instance, each fully realized monad, each human being who has made the return journey and is fully expressive of the monad, actually at that point, having left the human kingdom behind, then that entity at that level of perfection is one with or the same as the perfected greater son. Yeah. Okay. Next. You know, I'm a big fan of questions and comments. So anytime you have any, if you don't understand it, ask a question, because there's going to be other attendees who also don't understand, and it's always useful to, take care of this misunderstanding as it comes up, because the knowledge builds on one piece of knowledge builds on the next. So, yeah. Yes, Barbara.
So you had a great definition of expressed light. I think you said as radiance of consciousness.
Right.
And I wonder if how heat relates to consciousness.
Heat, well, okay. The words DK uses is luminous light, and that luminosity is facilitated by contact with the life aspect. So, luminous consciousness equals light, right? Radiant and luminous. The heat is an experience of the life aspect, and you're asking the relationship between the two. Well, the life aspect, of course, is the first, is the first aspect, and the consciousness aspect is the second. So it's when form comes into contact with the life aspect that consciousness is created. So it's that light of consciousness is a direct result of contact with the life aspect, which DK calls heat. Does that make it clear?
Um, so there's a radiance of the absolute that's described here that uh, is connected with consciousness. The and that seems to in the literature um, have many substrates of formation. So we can go from the luminous light of consciousness um, to various forces. um, I heat hasn't, as I've seen it in the literature, have that substrate. So
Yeah, well, heat is itself a kind of substrate, of a way of describing the effect of contacting the life aspect. But what that heat looks like depends on where in the scale of manifestation one is, right? When a solar logos, for instance, will have the nature of its heat will always be a response to its own life aspect. But that heat is of a different quality than, say, the nature of the heat experienced by a third initiate who is, for the first time, directly contacting the monad. However, it's fractal in that it's a question of, it's the same quality, but the degree is vastly different. So, and then in the quality of consciousness that you were talking about, consciousness is a direct is also radiatory. You know, you have the life aspect radiates out as the an experience of contacting the life that translates into consciousness, and then it's personified. That life is personified, or the realization of the life within becomes personified. And that's what the radiatory quality of consciousness is. And of course, that too varies in accordance with where it's being experienced, you know, whether by a man or solar logos, right? So hope that helps a bit. Carol?
Thank
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Carol.
Yes, I came in a wee bit late, so maybe I've misunderstood. So I understand that my perfected monad is what's involved here. So when my perfected monad gets to the very top of its level, then it becomes a sun or part of the sun or jointly with others as the sun. I'm a little unclear. I'm getting
Nope.
this peak of
You're
development.
close. You're close. It's perfected in that the monad is always perfect in and of itself, but uh, the experience of the monad by a human being is increases through the initiations until at the seventh, sixth and seventh really, the initiate moves into identicality or identification with the monad. And at that point, it's itself as a unit of consciousness becomes one with the monad, quote unquote, right? At that point, you could say that the that indwelling jiva who has been making this journey through eons reaches perfection because it is a union with, as you pointed out, the lesser son of the monad. Then in that moment, one realizes the identification with the solar logos of which all monads are a part. And as I said, it becomes fractal. Really, the life at the heart of every monad is the life aspect at the heart of the solar logos.
Yeah, already knew the first part of what you're saying because I've studied about going towards becoming the monad. But
Right?
then the monad then is already part of the SUN, or it moves in to be part of the SUN. That's just that last bit I don't get because that's new. The other stuff I've been studying for years.
Yeah. No, it already is a part.
Oh, already is.
It already is. The monad on its own plane and is already perfect. It's already the perfect expression. It's it's the Father's house that sent the pilgrim on its way, and wait for the pilgrim return in order to create a union through identification with the solar aspect, right? Um, but then there are further levels of identification of this indwelling unit. At that point, you could say that the jiva, the indwelling, the
Mhm.
imprisoned life aspect, is then liberated, um, and becomes a part of that particular greater whole, right? The solar logoic greater whole. But the solar logos is itself on a journey of the same type, which is identification with other solar logoi. Um, and when at the end of that greater cycle, identification with for instance, the logos of the seven solar systems of which our solar system is a part, when that union is achieved, then there will be a further level of identification with the one, all in
Right.
caps, right? And it's an endless, it's a near
Yeah.
endless journey of expansion.
Thank
And
you.
it's, yeah, you bet. It's difficult to understand because we imagine, well, wait a minute, we're just a little tiny piece. And how can we be the same as the sun? But it's through that quality of identification, which is very different than the relational quality that we tend to think in terms of. Okay, anyone else?
One comment is I've
Yeah,
heard that the SUN has like a whole world in there. Many beings, many masters, many. Is
sure.
that true? It is. Okay.
Well, sure. The SUN um, mm, is a composite being, just like a human being is a composite being. You could say the SUN is the macrocosmic version of the human being who's made up of a myriad of lesser beings, right? In
Yeah.
both cases, devas and entities, uh, energetic entities connected with all three aspects. The first, second, and third logoi. For instance, the Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahmic aspect are all part of that SUN, right?
Thank
Whereas
you.
SON is the great being who whose outer form is the SUN.
Thank you. Not many people have talked about the SUN. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. This section of TCF really breaks it down. Right. Okay. Ariane.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple brief my connection is not. So the second aspect of God, what is that? Say
The
the
SON.
second aspect of God. No, the second aspect of God, you said.
First of all,
G-O-D.
you're breaking up. So if you could get closer to your mic and then
Yeah, yeah.
re-ask your question.
The second you said the second aspect of God, G-O-D. What is that exactly again? The second
Actually,
aspect of God.
I never said the second aspect of God. But that would be the SON, Son, who demonstrates through the second logos, which is the Vishnu aspect. That's the great being who inhabits the SUN, Son. Was that your question?
This class is so far beyond what I understand, and I'm jumping in a late time. But basically, I thought you were like, I get confused about like the hierarchy has a role, and the second ray and love wisdom, and they're
Mhm.
different words that one keeps on referring using, like the second. And
Right.
so when you say the second aspect of God, I just wrote it down. Maybe I misheard it.
No, that's
I wasn't sure exactly what that was.
okay. The relevance of the second aspect of God to what we're talking about here is that it is, let's go back up one. Let's see. Okay. Which, when this is the case, and each son of God is a perfected son, and notice the difference in spelling, the SON, son of God, that is the second aspect, right? That's in our solar system, that is the expression of the second ray. As the great liberating ray of liberation, and also that it is in this solar system the synthetic ray, because we're a second race solar system. So the indweller, the Son of God, shines forth or is liberated when the vehicle, which is the SUN, becomes perfected. Okay. And this is true also of a human being. When the personality becomes perfected and the causal body is shattered, then the SON, which is the soul, is liberated and shines forth. And that at a later stage, you could say the same thing about the monad. Okay.
Does the soul get obliterated when
It's
one goes beyond the fourth initiation, or is it just maybe more quiescent? What is the exact mechanism there? It's outgrown and one has a direct relationship to the monad. Does the soul continue to exist, or is it literally obliterated?
Yeah. The image that came to mind is when two cars drive up to the same place and then have a discussion and then drive off in opposite directions. Where they were is not obliterated. It just is simply not the center of activity anymore. So to put that in context, that means that when the personality is soul infused, then it takes on all the aspects of soul awareness and establishes a new duality now with the monad. And the solar angel, who was overshadowing the personality, is released to go about its own business, of which we know very little, because they're on
So
their own.
the solar angel, so that's separate from the soul. Is that separate from the monad, the solar angel? Like, what is that exactly? I'm not sure what a solar angel is, actually.
Yeah, sure. This solar angel is a great solar being and solar angelic being, which works with the monad, which works with one's monad in order to create a soul, S-O-U-L. That soul manifests through the causal body. This then becomes the intermediary for the monad and the personality, right? It basically allows the personality to begin the path of return. Without the soul, it would be infinitely longer period to evolve. You would be evolving at the rate of the evolution of the form aspect, without that intercessionary second or SON aspect. Right. So the solar angel is
that
it's
solar angel individual?
Yeah.
Is it personal and individual to each monad?
It is, and it is.
And it's different from the soul itself. It's high.
I'm sorry, it's what? What was that last?
I was wondering if it was something that's singular to each spark of being, is like each human being has its own solar angel and it's separate from the soul, is what you're saying? It's something beyond. Is it beyond the monad, even beyond the?
Yeah, the language that you're using is the language that personalities use. It's the natural language of separation, but souls don't identify as individuals, and yet they have a singular or individual effect on the personalities they overshadow. Souls identify as in group consciousness, but yes, there is a solar angel who has agreed to overshadow, a personality until it becomes soul infused. Okay, anyone else? All right, good questions. So we were on this next part. Here we go. The system will then be characterized by a blaze. Now he's talking about when he says will then be characterized. This is at the end of the cycle when the perfected sun emerges. There's basically no more work to do at that level. Okay, so then the system will then be characterized by a blaze of refulgent glory and by a radiation that will link it up with its cosmic center and thus affect the liberation of the SON sun. This passage describes the final goal, the consummation of this solar systemic life cycle, many trillions of years from now. DK describes the life cycle of the solar logos as being 311 trillion, 80 billion years, right? A quote, blaze of refulgent glory suggests not only brilliance, but an inner and higher vibratory radiance. It's like the life aspect completely breaks free of any form restriction. That will render our solar system's inner life capable of linking up with the central spiritual sun. It is through this alignment that the quote-unquote liberation of the SON sun will take place. Same thing exactly happens with a human being. The need to incarnate, which is called by in Hindu tradition, the chains of samsara or chains of illusion is thrown off, and one is then free to identify with the inner self. Okay, next. And his return to the far distant source from whence the primal impulse originated. So distance here is measured by passage through inner levels from the Uddhi plane of the cosmic physical plane, the highest subplane, on up through the subplanes of the cosmic astral and mental planes. The actual location of the quote-unquote far distant source depends on the level of logoic pralaya being experienced, right? So if, for instance, this is that place between two solar logoic lifetimes, then there will be a complete return to the causal body of the solar logos. Lesser cycles, there will be that far distant source becomes nearer, depending on which cycle it is. We might ask, does the primal impulse, right here, primal impulse, mean birth from the solar logoic causal body? Or is it, for instance, cosmic monadic levels? It just depends, again, on which phase of the solar logoic life is being described. Next, here's this would be the causal body level of that's being described here of a solar logos. So you have the cosmic physical down here, and then the cosmic astral, and a return, just like humans return to the causal body. So does the solar logos. And at some point, when all incarnations in the lower cosmic planes has been completed, that there's no necessity, this causal body will also be shattered. And the indwelling jiva of this great being will ascend, just as we do at the fourth initiation. Let's see. Next. Therefore, bear in mind, first, that the sun, SON, is the radiant result of the union of spirit and matter, and may be considered as the totality of the solar system, the SUN, and the 7 sacred planets. Okay, so As soon as the active impulse of spirit meets the receptive field of matter, a new radiance appears, the SON, the sun, whose very being is the light and life born from that union. DK here makes a distinction between the subjective SON sun, who is the inhabiting life of the entire solar system, and the objective outer sun. Okay, next. Second, that the SON manifests through his qualities of light and heat, as does the solar sun. He's making a clear comparison between the nature of these two, the qualities of light and heat of the SON sun compared to those of the SUN sun. Again, for a relative comparison, just think in terms of the personality and the soul of a human being, right? One being the radiance of consciousness that is being developed as a result of the touch of the soul, demonstrating through the personality, and the other being that inherent quality of consciousness in the soul itself. Okay. So on cosmic levels, the solar system as the SON sun expresses itself as the radiance of consciousness, which you remember is light, and the energy of life, which is heat, which is produced by the union of spirit and matter. This solar expression is made up of the heat and light of all the monads within the solar systemic ring past knot. It's an important point to understand, especially when you're looking at the connection between our monad and this greater solar life. The greater solar life is a composite expression of all the monads, right? And they are one, which is a thing impossible for us to truly understand. That there's no distinction between the parts and the whole when they express that same liberated light and life, right? Or light and heat. The comparison being made here is between the spiritual SON sun, the second aspect of the cosmic mental plane, and the physical solar sun. Both manifest through the qualities of light and heat, but on different planes. Yes, Carol.
Well, I've heard that that the monad is almost like an atomic bomb. And are you saying that because each of our monads are that powerful, that they are all contributing to this massive power of heat and light of the sun in the same way our singular monad is? This is a group conglomerate of this massive, almost atomic-like power.
It is, and the atomic is not just an analogy. It's really, atomic matter at that super high level of the monadic plane would be the nature of the demonstration of a monad. I mean, it wouldn't be, like a physical atomic bomb blast, but in terms of the relative, to imagine the potency of that's a good analogy. But they're also directly connected through the fact that they demonstrate through the atomic subplane of their respective planes, one on the physical and one on the monadic.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, next up. Could we get a reader, please?
Third, that the sun is the product of the electrical union of the fire by friction and electric fire, and is himself solar fire, or the manifestation of the other two, hence that which is seen and that which is felt. Finally, that the sun, S-O-N, therefore is the middle manifestation, and is produced by that which is above and that which is below, in the occult sense. Therefore, the S-O-N, on his own plane, the cosmic mental plane, is the egoic body of the Logos in the same sense as the egoic body of the microcosmos is the product of the union of the monad or spirit and matter. Just as the body egoic of man, that which is called the causal body, is only in process of formation and is not yet perfected, so we may predicate the same of the solar system as it expresses the life of God. It is in process of perfecting. The SON Sun manifesting through the SUN Sun and its sphere of influence is yet in a state of gradual development, and not until each cell within his body is fully alive and vibrating to a uniform measure will he be full grown and perfected.
Thank you, Anne Veronica. Okay, first, this is the third point that he lists. Third, that the sun is the product of the electrical union of fire by friction and electric fire, and is himself solar fire, or the manifestation of the other two, meaning the other two fires. Hence, that which is seen and that which is felt. Okay, so the sun, S-O-N, is born when fire by friction, which is the heat of energized matter, the third aspect, meets electric fire, the pure energy of spirit, or the first aspect, and the fire of that aspect. Their electrical union generates solar fire, a combined radiance and vitality that is both visible and experiential, as suggested by the phrase, that which is seen and that which is felt. These two senses, touch and sight, describe the means by which the interface between consciousness and the life aspect is made. It describes the bridge, right, between the life and consciousness. With consciousness being seen or experienced as light, being the light of higher mind, and the life aspect being felt through an inner experience of direct contact with the soul in early stages and with the monad beginning at the third initiation. So in terms of fire, you have the fire by friction, which is the outer fire, and the fire of matter, in response to the touch of electric fire, generates solar fire. And a visual aid is that fire by friction has rotary motion. Electric fire is a direct motion, and then the solar fire is a spiralic upward motion. So, and the spiral comes about because the rotary of fire by friction is responding to the direct motion of electric fire, and that response draws that circular motion upwards into a spiral, I've found that always to be helpful as a way of visualizing the quality of solar fire. Okay, next. Finally, that the sun, therefore, is the middle manifestation and is produced by that which is above and that which is below in the occult sense. The objective sun is the first to appear in manifestation. It is the outer shell, the vehicle through which the inner aspects will eventually express. So this is the SUN sun, right? The objective sun. The subjective SON sun, the soul of the solar system, is at first latent. It must evolve, awaken, and unfold through the interaction of spirit and matter. It is in this sense that the SON is born from the union of spirit and matter, and thus comes after them in terms of realization by the indwelling jiva, not in terms of the order in which they manifest, right? This mirrors the human journey. The body forms first, the soul awakens through experience, and notice the difference between the solar angel and the soul as a causal body gradually awakening through experience, or the egoic lotus, right? Gradually coming to life through experience. And eventually the spirit shines through. So involutionally, in terms of the coming into being of the form aspect, you have the first aspect sends it forth, the second aspect picks that that purpose up and incarnates a physical human being. So it's 1, 2, 3, right? But on the return journey, in terms of consciousness and realization, it's in the reverse order. The form, the body comes first, and in reaction to the interaction between the life and the form aspect, the son is born. Father and mother, the son is born. So hopefully that helps, because this can be difficult to understand otherwise. Next. Therefore, the sun on his own plane, the cosmic mental plane, is the egoic body of the Logos in the same sense as the egoic body of the microcosm is the product of the monad or spirit and matter. Okay, here describes the parallel between the macrocosm and the microcosm, showing how both reflect the same fundamental process, which is the fusion of spirit and matter to create a unified vessel for consciousness, the soul, or SON, with the logoic soul manifesting on the cosmic mental plane and the soul of man manifesting on the systemic mental plane. Any thoughts or questions? Okay, next. Just as the body egoic of man, that which is called the causal body, is only in process of formation and is not yet perfected, so we may predicate the same of the solar system as it expresses the life of God. It is in process of perfecting. So the perfection of both the micro and macrocosmic causal bodies is marked by gradual growth leading to a series of initiations. Planetary initiation for a human being, systemic and cosmic initiations for planetary logos, and cosmic initiations for solar logos. In all three cases, the third initiation marks soul infusion, and the fourth initiation, the shattering of the causal body. In a treatise on white magic, DK says, our planetary logos is striving towards the fourth cosmic initiation, which makes possible our attainment of the fourth initiation. So you see the direct link there, this interdependence between solar, planetary, and human initiations. Next. In other words, there's no way that you could ever take the fourth initiation unless we were in a or involved with, in is really the better word, in a planet, part of a planet that is itself striving to take that fourth cosmic initiation. If we were on a less evolved planet, because we are ourselves a part of that planet, we could not ever take the fourth initiation. Ariane. Ariane, you're muted.
Yeah, hi. I just lost the connection for a moment. Please forgive me. I have two questions about that, what you just said. So are you saying that because we have a Christ on our planet, that has been the bridge that allowed humanity to evolve to this extent? Or are you saying that because our planet with Sanat Kumara is, well, I don't know if Sanat Kumara and our planet are separate when you're talking about the fourth initiation. But that's the first question. I have a second question after that. So
Okay.
why is our, what, do you understand my question?
Yes. The Christ principle comes as a result of the overshadowing by Manasa Putras, who represent that Christ principle within the solar angelic kingdom, right? They're allied with our planetary hierarchy, and in that they are both of the second aspect. The literal Christ, the one who incarnated and overshadowed Jesus, you're right in that it would only be possible at this time in the unfoldment of the planetary logos. You know, we're at the fifth root race on the fourth globe of the fourth round of the fourth chain, and that all speaks of the of that in that of the sonship, S-O-N, sonship. It's the halfway point. So that intermediary aspect comes to life at this time as a result of that. And our access to it becomes possible as a result. In previous globe, previous root race, the Christ could not have manifested as an avatar of the age. It would have been a different energetic in order to promote human growth for that period, right? The growth
So they're a function of each other.
Let me just say one more thing.
Yeah.
What the Christ brought was the presented attribute of love, and therefore he grounded that principle in the fabric of the physical, astral, and mental planes. That was his great gift to the world. We're still coming to a point where we can even understand what that is. Yes, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, that is so incredible what you just said. So when you say the planet is going to take a fourth initiation, is it Sanat Kumara who's taking the initiation, or is it something different than Sanat Kumara? And what does that mean, a fourth initiation on a planetary level? That's a totally different level than a human level, right?
Right, it's a cosmic initiation. Well, you have, it's layered because you have the logos of the entire scheme, of which Sanat Kumara is the representative, but ultimately a tiny part, because there's 343 instances of a globe logos, which is what Sanat Kumara is. But because we're talking about identification, which brings this idea of identicality up, they're one, right? He's the expression of that great scheme Lord, and it would be that being who is taking the fourth initiation, the planetary logos.
So Sanat Kumara is not synonymous with planetary logos. He's an aspect of it, and he's not even the soul of that. There's many.
You could say he's the representative of the planetary logos on this globe.
I see. And what does that mean for a planet to take the fourth initiation? If you could at all describe that, like, what will the Earth? Will the Earth be an etheric planet? What will it be? Will it be a radiant
Well, first
planet?
of all,
What will it be?
it'll be a sacred planet. That'll be the great gain made through that initiation.
Yeah, but what does that mean exactly? What is a sacred? I mean, I know the examples like Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune,
Right.
Mercury, Venus, but I don't know what that would mean for Earth. What would it be like? What would it happen?
So the dominant expression will be through the soul ray of the planet, which for Earth is love wisdom, just as its personality ray, which is now expressing through, is active intelligence, the third ray. So, it's that phase will be completed, that third ray development through experience, gaining experience. That is to say, all the myriads lives that make up this planet will have gained what is needed to be gained through the quality of the third ray of active intelligence, and will move in their own process to a response to their own soul ray expression. And that coincides with the planetary logos has moved into its own second ray, soul ray expression. That's the big shift that happens as a result.
So, but the planet's initiatory process is independent from the human, is it not? I mean, the planet does not need us to.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
We're
Why?
not different. Do you need the cells in your body in order to live?
Temporarily.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the same thing, that we are cells in the body of the logos, and we're fractal expressions on a different level, on a human level, of the consciousness gradually being realized by our planetary logos.
But when we, and I don't want to hog the time, but one last question. But when we think about the fourth initiation being one of renunciation and sacrifice of the form, I'm just trying to conceive
Yeah,
maybe this.
we'll probably move on into etheric levels at that time. I think that's you're thinking in terms of the form aspect, right?
Yeah, but also that a sacred planet has how is it experienced by the beings who live on it? And I think you're getting to it. It's that the form or the active intelligence, the third ray, is going to be atavistic, basically beneath consciousness, and that the other aspects will be predominant, and whether it's etheric or not is secondary. That everything will be touched by the love wisdom aspect, I think, is what you're saying.
That's true. Now, it's a median point. There will be beings who are lagging and will be greatly impelled and compelled by that initiation. But the great bulk of the human kingdom will then be at a fourth initiatory level. And you can imagine what that means,
Oh my God. So we're talking about are we talking about millions of years from now or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I see.
Yeah, when DK said something like preparing for the fourth cosmic initiation, he's not suggesting that you hold your breath, because he's talking in terms of cosmic eons of time. But from another perspective, we really are in this threshold space, this, and that is having its effect now, which is that, even in terms of the shift from the Piscean to the Aquarian age, the potential for realization in the Aquarian age is made possible by the fact that our planet is preparing for the fourth initiation. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Thank
Barbara,
you.
you bet. I really appreciate your questions. Barbara?
Yes. So in some ways, Sun, S-U-N, is a creator. I'm wondering, and we have logoi, who are creators. Is the S-O-N a creator?
In the same way that our soul sends forth our incarnations, right? Um, our souls have those three aspects as well, right? And that the Brahmic aspect of the soul, you could call it 2 sub 3, if you don't mind the technical term, is what sends the personalities into a series of successive initiations. And in that way, the soul of the solar logos, or the SON, sends forth a progressive series of lesser lives into incarnation. Does that answer your question, Barbara?
In the same way that the three primary logoi do, or is it in some way above that or different than the three primary logoi?
Yeah, it's both different and the same. It's different in terms of level and degree, but it's the same fundamental energy. In other words, that those three aspects, our solar logos has three logoi connected with it that come into demonstration based upon where the solar logos is in his cycle of demonstration, right? They're inherent to, just as the three are always inherent in the one, the expression of that triplicity is the three logoi, and they demonstrate in accordance with where in the cycle of the solar logoic life is being demonstrated, or what part of that passage from form development to liberation into spirit, that paradigm, is. So it currently, the form aspect is very much alive, but the Vishnu aspect, the second, is gaining more and more potency through in demonstration.
So is the SON in direct oversight of the logoi?
It's a direct oversight of the logoi. Oh, yeah, okay, yes. I see what you mean now. Yes. But it's there. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Just to say that, yes, that's true. They demonstrate through the SUN aspect, right? In other words, the results are seen in the phases of the SUN or form aspect, but they're overseen and you could say successively initiated by the SON, the indweller. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That's great.
Okay, good. All right, let's see. Okay, next up. The sun Is this, I read this, I think. The sun manifesting through the SUN and its sphere of influence is yet in a state of gradual development. I did read this, okay. Right. Okay. Next up, can we get a reader, please? Mikhail?
Yeah, Barbara, you want to read?
Yeah. Not until his radiation and his display of light is perfectly seen and felt will his place among the heavenly constellations, in quote, the Son of God, in a cosmic sense, unquote, be fully achieved. Not until each cell in his body is a sphere of radiant glory, a blaze of fire and light, and a source of magnetic radiation or heat, occultly expressed, will the sun, SON, in the heavens shine forth. From the cosmic point of view, as we know, our sun is but of the fourth order and on the lowest cosmic plane. When the sun has, through the sun, attained full expression, end quote, that is, perfected his display of light and heat, unquote, then he will shine forth upon another plane, that of the cosmic mental. We have the analogy in the microcosm or man. When a man's light fully shines forth, when his magnetic radiation has reached the stage of vivid interaction or group activity, then he has attained full self-expression and has included within his sphere of influence and control the mental plane.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, first, not until his radiation and his display of light is perfectly seen and felt will his place among the heavenly constellations, parentheses, the Son of God in a cosmic sense, be fully achieved. So, the Solar Logos, in his role as a cosmic Son of God, cannot assume his full status among the celestial hierarchy until his life force, radiation, and conscious illumination are so fully manifested that cosmic beings such as the logos of the seven solar systems, of which ours is a part, can both see his light and feel the heat of his life aspect. Only then will, quote, his place among the heavenly constellations be fully achieved. You know, said another way, you could say that the occluding power of the form, it's lost its ability to veil the spirit anymore. You know, it's the form aspect has been broken. That ability to hide the life or the spirit is broken through, and the inner jiva shines forth in all its light and glory. Lisa.
So that is like on the macrocosmic level. What happens for the human on a microcosmic level, that our minimal radiance is recognized by the master, the ashram, the hierarchy?
Very good. Yeah. I think that's, you know, it's akin to the fourth initiation where you shatter the causal body, which is the last confining form, right? And you expand to the next level of orientation, which is then on the Buddhic plane, the lower subplanes of the Buddhic plane, and you become as one with the soul. You are as yourself a soul level being who then establishes a relationship with the monad. And yes, at that point, you are very much a part of the group consciousness of the ashram to which you belong, right? Senior initiate and eventually a master of wisdom connected with some ashram. Was that your question?
Well, actually, my question was probably even more basic than that, but you answered my question. But I was thinking as you were talking, oh, gee, I was thinking, really lower than, lower than that.
Oh, well, lower than that works. You can pick it up at any level, and it's the process itself that is universal. Whether you're talking about, the one about whom not may be said, expanding into that whatever the next level is for that particular growth, or a galaxy expanding into the whatever the next, becoming one with the 7 galaxies to which that galaxy is a part. I mean, there's no teaching on this, no direct teaching, except by analogy, And in that, he really drives home that it really is as above, so below. It doesn't. It's like the rules don't suddenly change, as you go up. It's the same fundamental principles that drive the entire universe, right? Anyone else? Okay. Next, not until each. So, okay, before I go ahead, Helio Soul.
No, I just wanted to read when it's time.
Oh, okay, good. We'll keep that in mind. That's coming up. So, not until each cell in his body is a sphere of radiant glory. Each cell in his body, that's us, is a sphere of radiant glory, a blaze of fire and light, and a source of magnetic radiation or heat, occultly expressed, will the SON in the heavens shine forth. So, the cosmic SON, Sun, cannot fully manifest his divine presence until every atom of his celestial body. Now, this goes back to the question Ariane was making. It says, really, can't the planet excel on its own without us? I mean, after all, it's a planet. Well, this answers that question, right? Every atom of his celestial body, that includes each of us, radiates living fire, which is an expression of consciousness, and magnetic energy, a term synonymous with heat, which is, of course, response to the life aspect. Only when each cell burns as a self-contained sphere of glory, emitting both light and heat, meaning perfected consciousness and perfected response to the life aspect, will the SON Sun in the heavens truly shine forth. Then all intended growth for this particular solar life cycle will have been realized and demonstrated. Okay. Next. From the cosmic point of view, as we know, our sun is but of the 4th order and on the lowest cosmic plane. So it's a veiled phrase here. The phrase our sun is but of the 4th order suggests that there are solar logoi of higher orders who manifest on higher planes, right? In the last pages of a Treatise on Cosmic Fire, DK says, our solar system is a system of the 4th order, having its force centers upon the 4th cosmic plane, force centers being etheric centers like our chakras, upon the 4th cosmic plane, that's the Buddhic plane, and making its objective manifestation from the 4th systemic plane. plane, that's the Buddhic plane, via the fourth subplane of the systemic physical plane. So the statement describes three related planes. First, a logos of the fourth order has its causal centers on the cosmic Buddhic plane, which is confirmed by the statement, the seven rishis of the Great Bear being the seven centers in a solar logos, okay? These centers are the monads of the seven sacred planets of our solar logos. Next, and making its objective manifestation from the fourth systemic plane refers to the Buddhic plane of the cosmic physical plane. And finally, via the fourth subplane of the systemic physical plane, references the fourth or etheric subplane of the systemic physical plane. Here then are the three planes, which characterized as solar logos of the fourth order. And it's so important to realize that, we tend to think in terms of, linear progression, like you're working here, then you're working here, then you're working here on your way up. But there's also a very potent resonance between numbered planes, right? The energy of the cosmic Buddhic plane, which is even above the soul levels of our solar logos, resonates all the way down to the fourth subplane of the physical plane, of our systemic physical plane. And guess what? That's where we build our the base of our Antakarana. That's no accident in this fourth order solar system, that's where our conscious spiritual process begins, right? In building the Antakarana, starting on this fourth subplane. Yes, Nadell.
So it sounds as though what's being said here is that we actually are, speaking monadically, we are the solar logos, reaching down to the lower planes, gaining the experience. We are the evolution of the solar logos. Yep. As it expands and grows, we are it.
Yep, it's mind-boggling, but that's exactly right. Yeah, it's, God immanent and God transcendent. It's the interplay between those two forces. We're not there also is a cohesive indwelling solar logoic being who is the sun, S-O-N aspect, right? But it's the interplay between the monadic principle and the S-U-N, sun, the manifested principle, which creates that S-O-N soul level being. So you do have God transcendent at monadic levels of the solar logos, for instance, and God immanent through the fact that we are one with that principle. The indwelling jiva is lit, you could say, or an expression of that same spirit aspect as the monad on the solar logo of a solar logos is on its own plane. It's just a difference between lighting a match and setting off an atomic bomb. They're both fire, right? So the difference is only in degree, not in type. Carol.
I was just, maybe it's because it's teeny on my screen. I was trying to figure out where the Antakarana starts downward on this chart.
Well, there's a specific Antakarana which over here on this far right screen begins. It's actually right here. It begins on the fourth subplane, the one that's lit white, and moves up to the first subplane here. And that connects it then with the monastic permanent atom, which means it's connected then with the triad. So that's the what is generally called the antakarana. But from another point of view, an antakarana is just a bridge, and it continues to be built. After this antakarana is completed, you then begin building the antakarana that extends up to the monad, which stretches across all three of the Atma Buddhi monastic subplanes, right? And that's the work of masters of wisdom, right? And that you have cosmic antakaranas. There's, again, it's as above, so below. This fourth order solar system is building a cosmic antakarana between this fourth physical subplane by means of the Buddhic plane in order to connect with the, first of all, the causal body, which is animated by the Buddhic plane. So all of them are antakaranas, but the one that DK talks at length about in raised initiations and education in the New Age is the one that stretches from the fourth subplane of the physical plane up to the monastic subplane of the physical plane.
Thank you. That explains why it gets confusing too. There's multiple levels.
Yeah, there are multiple levels. From one point, it's a generic term, and from another point, it's very specific for us because it's relevant to us as disciples in this specific way, right? Okay. Okay, what am I doing here? I've got a little demonstration going on here. Okay. So, all right. Sorry, I'm just finding my place here and making it first the Buddhic plane. Finally, right. Okay, we went through that. So, yeah, here are the three planes which characterize the solar logos of the fourth order. The higher centers of the solar logos of the fourth order, anchored on the cosmic Buddhic plane, act as archetypal vortices. These centers radiate energy downward into the systemic Buddhic plane, where the physical blueprint begins to take form. This conditioning energy then radiates down into the systemic physical plane, where it anchors itself in the fourth etheric subplane, which serves as the threshold between the etheric and the dense physical manifestation. So in terms of the impulse, the will to be, this is the line of descent. In esoteric terms, objective manifestation means the point at which energy crystallizes into form, thereby following the etheric blueprint that underlies all physical phenomena. Next, when the sun has, through the SUN, attained full expression, that is, perfected his display of light and heat, then he will shine forth upon another plane, and that of the cosmic mental. So when the great life who animates the solar system has fulfilled all possible unfoldment of consciousness, radiating perfected light, and has fully realized the life aspect through the mastery of heat on the cosmic physical plane, he will then shift his field of expression to the cosmic mental plane. But how, we might ask, does a downward shift from the cosmic Buddhic to the cosmic mental plane represent spiritual progress? The solution to this apparent contradiction lies in the phrase, he will shine forth upon another plane. This does not mean that the logos is devolving into a denser expression, but rather that he will have perfected his Buddhic expression and then will be ready to function as a causal agent on the cosmic mental mental plane. This is not a descent into limitation, but rather a making holy of a denser level of expression. For humanity, this will result in a shift in consciousness from astral to mental polarity, allowing access to soul light from the higher mental subplanes, and thus preparing humanity as a kingdom for group initiation. This is a bit of a tricky point, so I'm going to, we're going to start here next time so we can talk about this and elaborate on this point. So, yeah, let me mark this. Yeah. Any final thoughts or questions before we end today's sessions? Okay, yes, who is Heliosol? I always forget.
It's my name is Irina, short is Ira, and I'm here was before, and somehow I had an impulse today to come back. And
Well, good. Glad to have you back.
thank you. Just little question in that phrase, when the sun, S-O-N, has through the sun, S-U-N, attained full expression, that is perfected his display of light and heat, then he will shine forth upon another plane. There is a phrase when he is shining through the sun, S-O-N, shining through the sun. Can you dwell on that a little bit? What is shining through? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, the easiest way to get it, to understand it, is how the soul shines through our personalities, right? Basically, we're trying to make our personalities transparent enough that soul light can express through them, right? It's the same thing at a solar logoic level, that when the SUN, the physical solar system, has reached that point where it has raised its vibration to the level of that great being here called the SON, the sun, has raised its point to that being so that it can directly express itself through the form aspect, which is the SUN, then you will have, then this shift to the cosmic mental will take place. From the cosmic Buddha to the cosmic mental will come forth. So it's a question of transparency and luminosity, that over eons, the soul at whatever level gradually changes the quality of that personality expression until it begins to shine with and emanate the quality of the higher expression. And then by the end of the cycle, the SUN sun becomes a perfect expression of the indwelling SON. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much. And also, for some reason, reminding me how the children are growing in some sense and through the parents, and attaining certain I don't know qualities through and this is very profound, I would say, because would be good for humanity to be aware of that on on the level, like, let's say, this need to be taught at schools, I think, at some point.
Absolutely. It's a great analogy, really, because really you're infusing these quote unquote lesser ones who have the potential to become, you know, the full potential to express the full potential of the archetype, which is humanity itself, right? But that comes through education, and it's really the education of the entire field of knowable things that humanity has developed up to that point. You know, that the child has eventually has access to all of that, which allows an unlimited growth towards becoming an expression of the best of what humanity has to offer. So in that way, it's a really a perfect analogy. Thank you.